The night the ropes came loose, the desert held its breath. Winds scraped across the dry earth like a blade, carrying the smell of dust and rain that had not yet fallen.
Oh.
Inside a lonely trading post at the edge of the territory, a lantern trembled, throwing shadows that looked like moving spirits. Everyone who had ever crossed these lands knew one rule: never untie an Apache after dark. Yet that was the night a woman with a child beneath her heart placed her shaking hands on a knot and changed the course of more than one life. She had not planned to be brave. She had planned only to survive. Her name was Iron Willow, a name given by a mother who believed names could harden the spine and steady the soul. Iron Willow stood alone, breath tight in her chest, listening to the low thunder rolling far off in the hills. Outside, men argued in rough whispers. Inside, tied to a post with rawhide rope, sat Red Hawk, an Apache warrior whose calm eyes refused to beg. His face bore the marks of long roads and harder choices. Even bound, he carried the quiet of a storm waiting for the right moment. If you are drawn to stories where fate steps in when hope feels thin, stay with us here on Western Love Story. And before this night unfolds any further, remember to like and subscribe so you do not miss what comes next. This is a tale of courage, destiny, and a love born where no one expected it, and it begins right here, under a lantern that swayed like a warning. Iron Willow pressed a hand to her belly as another gust rattled the door. The child inside her shifted, a small reminder that every choice now carried weight. She had learned that lesson the hard way. The men outside wanted blood. They said the Apache had raided a supply wagon. They said justice had to be quick. They said a woman should keep her head down. Iron Willow had kept her head down all her life. Tonight, the weight of it felt heavier than the child she carried. Red Hawk met her gaze. He did not speak at first. His silence felt respectful, as if he understood the danger she faced just by standing there. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, steady, and clear. He said he had not touched their wagon. He said the land itself would bear witness if lies were told. Iron Willow had grown up hearing men lie with straight faces. What struck her was not his words, but the way he held himself. No fear, no rage. Only a patience that felt older than the walls around them. Outside, Stone Crow laughed, a sound like gravel. Stone Crow was a man who believed power was taken, not earned. He had tied the knots himself, proud of their tightness. He had not counted on a woman alone with a lantern and a conscience sharpened by motherhood. Iron Willow remembered her father's voice, long gone, telling her that destiny does not always arrive with trumpets. Sometimes it arrives as a choice no one else wants to make. Her fingers found the rope. It was rough and cut into her skin. She hesitated, hearing boots scrape closer. If she failed, there would be no forgiveness. If she succeeded, there would be consequences she could not yet see. The child moved again, and something inside her settled. She thought of the future, of a world where her child would learn what courage looked like. Not the loud kind that boasts, but the quiet kind that acts when no one is watching. Red Hawk watched her hands. He did not rush her. He did not plead. In his eyes, Iron Willow saw a mirror of her own fear and resolve. The knot resisted at first, stubborn as the hatred that tied it. Her breath grew shallow. Sweat cooled on her neck. The lantern flickered, and for a heartbeat she imagined the rope turning to stone, the night freezing her in place. A shout rose outside, a gun cocked. The thunder came closer, no longer a promise, but a warning. Iron Willow worked the knot the way her mother had taught her to work a stubborn seam, slow and patient. The rope gave a little, then more. Red Hawk's hands fell free, and in that instant the night shifted. He did not run. That was the first surprise. He stood, stretching his wrists, eyes still on Iron Willow, whispered a word in his own tongue, a word that sounded like gratitude wrapped in prayer. She stepped back, heart hammering, every sense alive. She knew there would be no turning back now. Destiny had noticed them. The door burst open. Stone Crow filled the frame, rain finally breaking loose behind him. His eyes took in the loose rope, the standing Apache, the woman with her hand over her belly. For a moment no one moved. The storm roared as if urging them on. Stone Crow lifted his weapon, and Red Hawk shifted his stance, ready to shield the woman who had just changed his fate. Iron Willow spoke before anyone else could. Her voice surprised even her. It carried through the room clear and strong. She said there would be no killing under this roof tonight. She said the truth would come with the daylight. She said if blood was spilled, it would stain them all. Stonecrow sneered, but the men behind him hesitated. Something in her words, or in the way Red Hawk stood between her and danger, made them pause. This land had a way of testing souls. Old American nights like this had broken stronger men than Stonecrow. The thunder cracked so close, it shook the walls. In that violent light, Iron Willow saw a future branch into paths she could not yet name. One path led to safety bought with silence. Another led to exile, danger, and a strange pull she did not understand yet. Red Hawk spoke again, not in anger, but with a promise. He said he would face the dawn and the truth, said he owed his life to the woman before him, and debts mattered. Iron Willow felt the weight of his words settle like a vow. She did not know what she expected when she untied him, but she had not expected this calm certainty, this sense that the night itself had chosen sides. Stonecrow lowered his weapon a fraction, just enough to show the crack in his confidence. He spat on the floor and said the morning would decide. The men backed away, the door slammed, and the storm swallowed their voices. Inside, the lantern steadied. The trading post felt smaller now, as if it could barely contain what had begun. Iron Willow sank onto a crate, legs trembling. Red Hawk remained standing, a silent guard. For a moment, they listened to the rain. She wondered what kind of man stood before her when free, and what kind of woman she would have to become to face the morning. The child stirred again, and she felt a fierce love rise, mixed with fear and something like hope. Outside, hoofbeats faded into the dark. Inside, a bond had been forged without words. The night was not finished with them. Dawn would bring questions, judgments, and choices that could tear this fragile piece apart. As the storm raged on, Iron Willow looked up at Red Hawk and realized that untying the rope had been the easy part. What came next would test everything she believed. And as the lantern burned low, the desert waited, holding its secrets, ready to see whether destiny would claim its due when the sun finally rose. The rain did not stop when the lantern dimmed. It only softened, turning from a roar into a steady rhythm against the roof, like a drum marking time. Iron Willow sat still, feeling the wooden crate beneath her, rough and unforgiving. Her back ached, and the weight of the child pressed low, reminding her that rest was a luxury she no longer owned. Across from her, Red Hawk remained near the door, his posture alert but not threatening, as if he understood that even freedom could be fragile in a place like this. The trading post had seen many nights, but few like this one. Its walls carried whispers of deals made in bad faith and promises broken at gunpoint. Iron Willow had grown up here after her parents passed, raised by dust and duty. She knew every creak in the floor and every crack in the beams. Tonight, those familiar sounds felt strange, as if the building itself sensed that something had shifted. Red Hawk finally moved, slow and deliberate. He set his freed hands on the table, palms open. The gesture was simple, but it spoke of trust offered, not demanded. Iron Willow watched him closely. She had heard stories about Apache warriors since she was a child, stories filled with fear and exaggeration. What she saw now was a man marked by travel and loss, not the monster those stories painted. He spoke of the land beyond the hills, of a people pushed farther each season by lines drawn without their consent. He spoke of his name, earned in a trial where patience saved more lives than strength. He did not speak of raids or blood. Instead, he spoke of watching stars with his father and learning which ones guided travelers home. Iron Willow listened, her fear slowly mixing with curiosity. Every word pulled back a layer of the mystery surrounding him. Outside, the night carried other secrets. Stonecrow did not ride far. From the upper window, Iron Willow saw a torchlight flicker in the distance. She knew that light. It meant waiting, watching, and planning. Stonecrow was not a man who forgot a challenge to his authority. The pause he had allowed was not mercy. It was calculation. Iron Willow told Red Hawk about the town, about how fear had settled deep into its bones. The railroad had promised prosperity, but delivered strangers and guns. The law arrived late and left early. Men like Stonecrow filled the gaps. Red Hawk listened without interruption, his eyes narrowing slightly when she spoke of the missing wagon and the quick blame. He said others had been moving through the territory, men who wore no colors but carried familiar greed. As the hours crept forward, Iron Willow felt exhaustion tug at her. Red Hawk noticed and offered her the only chair with a back. She refused at first, pride and caution rising together, but her body decided for her. Sitting, she felt vulnerable and strangely relieved. The child stirred again, stronger this time, and Red Hawk looked away out of respect, though his jaw tightened as if the knowledge deepened the stakes. He told her that among his people, a woman carrying life was considered sacred ground. Harming her was an offense that followed a man beyond death. Iron Willow swallowed, struck by the contrast between that belief and the way the world treated her now. She thought of the man who had left her with only a memory and a growing burden. She did not speak his name. Names had power, and she had given him enough already. The storm eased near dawn, leaving behind a heavy silence. That silence was worse than thunder. Iron Willow knew the town would wake with questions and rumors. She imagined faces at the door, some curious, some angry. She imagined Stone Crow shaping the story to fit his needs. Red Hawk said dawn was a test in his culture, a moment when lies struggled to survive the light. Iron Willow wished the light moved faster. From the shadows, another figure appeared. Old Burklaw, the trader who owned the post, emerged from a back room where he had hidden. His hands shook as he poured coffee, eyes darting between Iron Willow and Red Hawk. He was a man who survived by staying neutral, but neutrality had limits. He muttered about trouble and consequences, about how no good deed went unpaid. Iron Willow met his gaze and said nothing. Her silence carried more weight than argument. Burklaw warned them that riders from the north had been asking questions, said the missing wagon had been carrying more than supplies, did not say what, but his paws spoke loudly. Red Hawk exchanged a look with Iron Willow. The mystery thickened, pulling them both deeper into something neither had sought. As the sky lightened, Iron Willow felt a mix of dread and resolve. She stood, steadying herself on the table. Red Hawk stepped back to give her space. She realized then that whatever happened next, they were already linked by choice and consequence. Destiny had a way of binding people tighter than rope. From outside came the sound of boots again, more than before. Voices rose, controlled but sharp. Stone Crow was not alone now. Iron Willow took a breath, tasting fear and iron. Red Hawk shifted closer, not touching her, but near enough that she felt his presence like a shield. The door handle turned slowly. Iron Willow closed her eyes for a brief moment, not in prayer, but in acceptance. The child inside her moved once more, strong and insistent, as if urging her forward. Whatever truth waited beyond that door, whatever lies and threats came with it, she knew the night had already chosen its path. The question now was whether the morning would honor it or try to tear it apart. The first rays of dawn barely pierced the horizon when the door finally creaked open. Stone Crow stood there, tall and imposing, the early light catching the edges of his hat and the hard line of his jaw. Behind him, the rest of his men shifted uneasily, the rain from the storm still dripping from their boots and coats. They were more than just townsmen. They were a force that had grown comfortable with fear, used to bending others to their will. And now they faced something they hadn't expected. Iron Willow remained where she stood, hands pressed over her belly. The child within seemed to sense the tension, kicking sharply. She did not move, did not flinch. Red Hawk, standing slightly in front of her, was calm, but his eyes scanned the men with a careful calculation. The air between the two groups was taut, every heartbeat a drum in the quiet morning. Stone Crow's gaze fell on Red Hawk first, then back to Iron Willow, and in that moment, the first words were born from tension rather than speech. "You let him go?" Stone Crow said, voice low but edged with authority. "You think you can play hero in my town?" Iron Willow met his eyes, unafraid, and for a moment, the room seemed to shrink. She said nothing, letting the silence speak for her. Red Hawk's hand twitched slightly, the only sign that he was ready to act if the situation demanded it. Stone Crow stepped inside, boots echoing on the worn floorboards. His men followed, hesitant, sensing the shift in control that had already begun with the Untied Apache. This wagon, Stone Crow said, eyes narrowing, was carrying more than food. Someone's going to pay for its loss. Red Hawk spoke then. calm and deliberate, his words slicing through the tension like a knife through cloth. Not by my hand, and not in your name. The truth travels faster than lies, Stone Crow, if you are willing to see it. Stone Crow sneered, but there was a flicker of uncertainty.
Allie.
He did not like being challenged, least of all by a woman carrying a child and a man he had underestimated. The town won't listen to you, he said. It listens to power. Iron Willow stepped forward, the strength in her voice surprising even herself. Power does not make right, and it does not make the land yours. Her words hung heavy in the air. Red Hawk did not speak, but the way he held himself, steady and unyielding, reinforced her claim. Outside, the wind stirred the remnants of the storm. The scent of wet earth and smoke from distant chimneys filled the trading post. Every sound, the drip of water, the creak of boards, the distant crowing of a rooster carried weight now. As the tension grew, another story quietly unfolded. In the far corner of the room, old Burklaw muttered under his breath, weighing options and consequences. He had been neutral for years, but neutrality now seemed impossible. Every choice carried risk. Every word spoken could ignite violence or save lives. He remembered Red Hawk's calm eyes and Iron Willow's resolve. Somehow, their courage had unsettled the balance he had relied on for decades. Meanwhile, outside the post, a figure watched from the shadows, silent and patient. Hawkfeather, a young tracker who had worked with the Apache before, observed the movements of Stone Crow and his men. Hawkfeather had knowledge others lacked. He had seen the way Red Hawk moved through the territory, how he respected the land and those within it. Hawkfeather knew that the night's events were only the beginning. He would not intervene yet, waiting to see which way destiny leaned. Inside, Iron Willow and Red Hawk spoke quietly, their voices low enough for Stone Crow and his men not to hear. She asked him why he had not fled, why he had not disappeared into the hills as many Apache warriors would have. He looked at her, steady and unwavering, and said, "Because someone had faith. And I cannot leave when faith is offered, even by one who fears for the life within her." The words struck her. She had expected anger, suspicion, or even contempt. Instead, she found something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in a long time: trust. The feeling was fragile, but it rooted itself in her chest like a stubborn seed. She wondered if the child inside her could sense the same thing. Stone Crow's voice rose, breaking the fragile calm. "Enough of this talk," he barked. "You've tied the town's hands long enough. Tell me where the wagon is, or I swear." His hand moved toward his coat, but Red Hawk shifted, placing himself slightly between him and Iron Willow. "Threats are empty," Red Hawk said quietly, but each word carried weight. "Empty threats are the tools of men who fear what they cannot control. You may have guns, but you do not have truth." Stone Crow laughed harshly, but it was the sound of a man unsure of his footing. Iron Willow noticed it too. He had underestimated the strength that could come from resolve and reason, a strength far removed from brute force. A sudden noise outside drew everyone's attention. The faint sound of hooves, quick and deliberate, echoed across the muddy ground. Stone Crow stiffened. His men tensed. Red Hawk's eyes flicked to the window, then back to Iron Willow. "We are not alone," he said. Iron Willow's heart hammered. The child within kicked strongly, and she pressed a hand to her belly, feeling the life that had guided her choices so far. Outside, the hoofbeats grew louder, closer. Hawkfeather emerged from the shadows, silent but with eyes sharp as a hawk. He called out softly, just enough for Red Hawk to hear, They're coming faster than expected. Not all are with Stonecrow. The words added a new layer of tension. The town was no longer merely a stage for a confrontation. The balance of power had shifted. New players were entering the scene, their intentions unclear. Every step, every word now carried consequences that no one could predict. Red Hawk nodded slightly to Hawkfeather, then turned back to Stonecrow. "You will not gain anything by violence today," he said. "The truth is moving, and it is stronger than fear. Stand aside, and let the morning reveal it." Stonecrow's lips pressed into a thin line. His pride and desire for control warred with the uncertainty in his men's eyes. Some shifted uncomfortably, sensing that loyalty alone could not protect them if the storm outside brought more than rain. Iron Willow stayed close to Red Hawk, every muscle in her body alert. She felt the tension winding tighter, as if the room itself might snap. Her mind raced with questions. Would the new arrivals support them, or complicate the danger? Could they hold Stonecrow off long enough to survive the day? And most pressing of all, what would the child inherit if the night's events shaped the world before it was born? The morning light grew, casting long shadows across the floor. Every creak and shuffle was magnified, every breath felt loud. Outside, the rain had ceased, but the clouds lingered, heavy and dark. Iron Willow sensed that the story of this land, of her own life, and the life growing within her, was far from finished. Each choice they made now would echo far beyond the walls of the trading post. Red Hawk glanced at her once more, silent communication passing between them. No words were needed. They were bound by the same realization. The night had changed everything, but the day would decide how far that change could go. And then, from beyond the door, the hoofbeats stopped. Silence fell, deeper than before. Every man, every heart in that room, waited. Someone who would decide what part they would play in the story that had begun the moment Iron Willow untied the Apache. The trading post held its breath. The land outside waited, destiny, as it had always done, prepared to move in ways no one could fully control. The morning stretched long and heavy. The kind of day where the sun felt trapped behind clouds, reluctant to rise fully. Iron Willow pressed her hands against her belly, feeling the child move as if aware of the tension in the trading post. Outside, the town began to stir, but the usual noises of daily life, the creaking of wagons, the clatter of boots on wooden streets, were hushed, wary. Something had changed in the air overnight. Fear and curiosity tangled, and no one dared take the first step toward certainty. Red Hawk stayed close to her, his presence a quiet promise. His dark eyes scanned the room and the doors, noting every potential threat, every hiding place where trouble might spring. Stonecrow had not left, though he lingered at the doorway, his hand resting near the gun at his hip. The men behind him shifted uneasily, sensing the instability of their leader's confidence. Something had shifted overnight. The rules they thought governed the town no longer applied. Iron Willow's heart raced, but she forced herself to breathe. Every fiber of her being warned her that the day would demand decisions harder than any she had made before. She looked at Red Hawk and saw in him the same unspoken understanding. There would be no running, no hiding. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Suddenly, the distant hoofbeats returned, faster this time. Iron Willow turned toward the window, straining to see. Hawkfeather appeared first, riding swiftly, dust and mud splashing around his boots. Behind him, more figures emerged, some familiar faces of those who had quietly supported Red Hawk before, others unknown. The sound of the approaching group sent Stonecrow's men into whispered panic. Their confidence had been steady until now, but uncertainty began to gnaw at them. Red Hawk moved to the door, placing himself slightly ahead of Iron Willow. "They come not to fight without cause," he said, voice steady, but his eyes held a warning. "And we will not meet force with fear alone." Iron Willow's pulse raced. Every story she had ever heard about the Apache spoke of courage and strategy, but she had never been so close to seeing it in motion. She wondered how much of Red Hawk's calm was skill and how much was necessity. The line between bravery and recklessness blurred when every heartbeat counted. Stonecrow's lips pressed into a tight line. His pride had led him this far, but even he felt the weight of the approaching riders. He turned to his men, barking orders, but the words lacked conviction. Several shifted nervously, eyes darting toward the open street. The town itself seemed to hold its breath, buildings casting long shadows like silent witnesses. Hawkfeather rode closer, now visible to everyone in the post. He dismounted with careful precision, keeping his movements calm but alert. "They come with questions," he said quietly to Red Hawk, his tone urgent yet controlled. "Us. Some are allies, some are curious, but all carry their own intentions." Red Hawk nodded. "Then we must be ready for every possibility," he said, "and protect what matters most." His hand brushed Iron Willow's lightly, a fleeting gesture, but enough to remind her that she was not alone. Outside, the town's main street began to fill. Onlookers peeked from windows and doorways, some drawn by curiosity, others by fear. Whispers traveled quickly, muttered theories about what had happened overnight, tales of the Apache, untied by a woman with a child, a defiance that dared to challenge Stonecrow's authority. The tension was almost physical, pressing on the walls of the trading post and the hearts of those inside. Iron Willow stepped closer to the window. She could see the riders more clearly now. Among them was Swift Arrow, a young scout who had long admired Red Hawk. His presence offered reassurance, though he carried the same weight of caution. Behind him were older figures, some skeptical, some cautious, but all aware that the events of last night had unsettled the order of the territory. Stonecrow's patience thinned. "Open the doors," he demanded, voice louder now, brittle with frustration. "Let them speak or I will make them." Red Hawk did not move. Iron Willow felt the tension in the room tighten, like a rope drawn to its limit. Every breath, every heartbeat carried the anticipation of violence or revelation. Outside, the riders waited, sensing the standoff but holding their positions. The quiet before the storm was thick, unyielding. Iron Willow's mind raced. The child inside her seemed to echo her anxiety, small kicks against her ribs reminding her of what was at stake. Every decision now had consequences not only for her, but for the life growing within. Her resolve hardened. She would not let fear dictate her actions. Not now. Stonecrow shifted, drawing his coat tighter around his shoulders. "Do you hear me?" he barked. "You will answer?" Red Hawk finally spoke, voice calm but firm. "Answer what?" "The truth is not yours to demand, Stonecrow. You may have fear and weapons, but you do not control what has already begun." The words hung heavy in the air, and for a moment even Stonecrow hesitated. His men looked to him, then at the riders outside, uncertainty flickering in their eyes. The trading post, once a place of commerce and neutrality, had become a crucible where fate, courage, and choice collided. From the street, Hawkfeather stepped forward, raising his hands slightly to signal peace. His eyes met Stonecrow's, and in that moment, the unspoken truth was clear. There would be no easy victory. Whoever controlled the narrative would control the day, and the stakes had never been higher. Iron Willow moved closer to Red Hawk, their shoulders nearly touching. "We cannot let them break us," she whispered, more to herself than to him. "Not today. Not for him. Not for me. Not for the child." Red Hawk placed a hand briefly on her back. "We stand together," he said, voice low but certain. "And we let the truth guide us, not fear." The hoofbeats in the distance grew louder again, faster, closer. The onlookers shifted nervously, sensing the approaching climax, the inevitable confrontation that would decide the course of the morning. Every eye in the town seemed to focus on the trading post now, waiting, guessing, fearing what would come next. Stonecrow's voice rose once more. "Enough talk. Step aside, or I will take control." Red Hawk's gaze met his, steady and unwavering. "Step aside and see the truth. Or stay and watch it pass you by." Iron Willow pressed a hand to her belly, feeling the life within her respond. The child was already part of the stakes, a living reminder of why courage mattered, why fear could not dictate the choices of the brave. The trading post felt like it was holding its breath. Outside, the riders paused at the edge of the street, waiting for a signal. Every shadow, every movement was magnified in the charged silence. The tension stretched to its breaking point, each second heavier than the last. And then, as if the land itself sensed the moment, a sudden gust of wind swept through the open door, rattling boards and lanterns alike. Rain from the storm still clung to the air, falling in a fine mist that made the morning glow silver and sharp. Every figure, inside and out, reacted instinctively, hands tightening on weapons or shifting to ready themselves. Iron Willow's heart pounded like a drum. Red Hawk's eyes were sharp, scanning every angle, every possible threat. Stone Crow's face was a mask of frustration and rage. The town itself seemed to lean closer, waiting, anticipating, knowing that the moment of reckoning was almost here. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked, sharp and sudden. It broke the fragile calm, a reminder that nothing remains still for long in this land of dust, blood, and destiny. The tension had reached its peak, the standoff, the mystery, the stakes for the child. For Iron Willow and for Red Hawk, everything was now on the edge, teetering toward a resolution that none could yet see. Every breath, every heartbeat, every shadow in the trading post carried the weight of what was about to happen. The light grew brighter, casting long, decisive lines across the floor. The riders waited outside, poised. Stone Crow waited, rigid and proud. And inside, Iron Willow felt the life within her shift again, a small but powerful reminder that hope and courage often arrive together, even in the darkest of times. The stage was set. The players were in position. Every secret, every intention, every choice had brought them here. And as the wind swept the mist of rain through the open doorway, the trading post, the town, and the desert beyond seemed to pause, waiting for the moment when destiny would finally speak. The wind shifted, carrying the last whispers of the storm away, and with it, the tension that had gripped the trading post for hours began to ease. Red Hawk stepped forward, his posture calm but commanding, and addressed everyone present. "The wagon was taken by men who feared the truth, not by my people," he said, his voice steady, carrying across the silent street. "Those who seek justice must follow the facts, not rumors or anger." Stone Crow's hands clenched at his sides. He opened his mouth ready to argue, but the sight of the riders approaching from the north gave him pause. Hawkfeather, Swift Arrow, and several others rode in deliberately, their faces serious but free from hostility. They carried evidence of the stolen supplies, confirming Red Hawk's words. The balance had shifted entirely, and the room felt it immediately. Iron Willow felt a surge of relief, tempered by exhaustion. She placed a hand over her belly and felt the life within respond, kicking gently as if to say that hope had survived the night. The child had already been a part of shaping the events of the past hours. Now, their courage and patience had brought clarity. She looked at Red Hawk, seeing in his eyes the same mixture of relief and vigilance that mirrored her own. Stone Crow, realizing that he no longer held control, lowered his gaze. His men, too, shifted uneasily, some whispering apologies to those they had wronged, others staring blankly at the proof that their assumptions had led them astray. Red Hawk's calm authority had turned the tide. No gunfire, no anger had been needed to claim victory. Truth, patience, and courage had done the work that force could not. Old Burklaw stepped forward, his hands trembling slightly as he addressed the room. "I have lived in this town for longer than most of you have been alive," he said. "I have seen many men and women make choices based on fear or pride. Today, I see the strength of honor and the power of standing for what is right. Let this be remembered." Iron Willow stepped closer to Red Hawk, and for the first time that morning, she allowed herself to smile. The storm had passed. The town could see the truth, and the child inside her would grow into a world where courage was rewarded. She realized that the risk she had taken, untying Red Hawk in the dead of night, had not only saved a life, but it also shifted the course of destiny itself. Red Hawk nodded to her, eyes softening for a moment. "You acted out of faith," he said. "That choice saved more than one life tonight. It saved the town from its own blindness, and it saved hope from being lost." The riders who had arrived from the north dismounted and approached Stone Crow and his men. They spoke quietly, confirming the evidence, sharing their observations, and ensuring that no further conflict would erupt. Stone Crow listened, then finally nodded, a reluctant acknowledgement of the truth. He had been forced to see what he could not control, and though pride still burned in his chest, he understood the consequences of continued stubbornness. Hawkfeather approached Red Hawk and Iron Willow, offering a respectful nod. "You have done more than protect one man," he said. "You have reminded us all of the power of courage, patience, and truth. This day will be remembered. Iron Willow felt tears prick at her eyes, but she did not let them fall. She had been through fear, uncertainty, and exhaustion, and now she could feel the relief settle into her bones. The child within her moved again, gently this time, as if sensing the peace that had finally come. She smiled at the life she carried, knowing that their future would be built on bravery and love. Red Hawk turned to Stone Crow one last time. "The town can heal if you allow it," he said. "It will not be easy, but it begins with honesty and respect. Choose wisely." Stone Crow's lips pressed together, but he nodded slowly. Perhaps it was the evidence. Perhaps it was the calm strength of the woman he had underestimated. Or perhaps it was the presence of the truth itself. Whatever the reason, he stepped back, allowing the town and its people the chance to rebuild, to set aside fear and claim fairness. The trading post, which had been a place of tension and conflict, began to feel like a haven once more. Lanterns were lit, tables cleared, and people cautiously approached, drawn by curiosity and relief. Conversations sparked not of blame, but of understanding. The storm had tested them, but it had also opened a path for cooperation and trust. Iron Willow took a deep breath and looked at Red Hawk, who smiled, finally allowing himself a small, rare moment of softness. "We survived the night," she said, voice low but steady. "And we will see the future together, for the child, for this town, and for ourselves." Red Hawk nodded, placing a hand over hers. The gesture was simple, yet it carried more meaning than words could hold. "And that future," he said, "will be built on courage and choices made with heart." The townspeople, witnessing the unity between the woman and the Apache warrior, began to murmur quietly among themselves. Old prejudices loosened as they realized that fear had led them astray, and understanding could guide them forward. The child Iron Willow carried became a symbol of hope, a promise that even in the harshest lands, new life and new beginnings could emerge. Hawkfeather, Swift Arrow, and the other riders returned to their posts at the edge of the town, their watchful eyes still alert but now filled with reassurance. They had seen that the night's events had not only changed the lives of a woman and a warrior, but had shifted the course of the town itself. The story would be told for years, of courage, destiny, and the choices that defined true strength. Iron Willow looked out at the streets, still glistening from the rain, and saw neighbors emerging, helping each other, sharing cautious smiles. The tension that had gripped the town so tightly was lifting, replaced by a fragile but growing sense of unity. She realized that courage was contagious, that one act could ripple outward, affecting more lives than one could imagine. Red Hawk stood beside her, his eyes scanning the horizon, yet resting on her when he spoke. "The night was ours," he said, "but the day is theirs. Let them rebuild, let them learn, and let them remember that courage and truth will always outlast fear." Iron Willow nodded, feeling a warmth she had not known in months. The storm had passed. The Apache warrior she had trusted had survived. And their future, though uncertain, was now filled with promise. She pressed a hand to her belly, feeling the child stir once more, a gentle reminder that life, hope, and love were resilient, even in the harshest of lands. Stone Crow lingered for a moment longer, then finally turned away, leaving the trading post and the town to those who had chosen honesty and courage. He would return, perhaps, but today he had been shown that power alone could not dictate fate. The town slowly returned to its rhythm. Iron Willow and Red Hawk stepped outside, breathing in the fresh air, feeling the sun breaking through the clouds. It was not just a new day. It was a new beginning. The people around them were still cautious, but they were ready to witness change, ready to accept that the bonds of courage, love, and truth were stronger than fear. Iron Willow smiled at Red Hawk, her eyes shining with relief and hope. "We made it," she whispered, "together." Red Hawk took her hand gently, his strong presence steadying her. "Together," he repeated. "And whatever comes, we face it side by side." The child inside her moved again, small but insistent, and she laughed softly, a sound full of promise. Red Hawk smiled too, and in that moment all the tension, all the fear, all the uncertainty melted into a quiet peace. The trading post, the town, the desert beyond, they had survived the storm, and so had they. Iron Willow looked to the horizon, to the sun breaking through the clouds, and felt a sense of destiny fulfilled, not in grand gestures, but in the courage to act when it mattered most. Life would continue. The town would heal. The child she carried would inherit a world shaped by bravery, love, and hope. And as the lanterns in the trading post glowed warmly against the brightening day, Iron Willow knew that the story of this night, this choice, and this courage would be told for generations. The world could be harsh, but in that harshness, kindness, bravery, and love could prevail. Red Hawk squeezed her hand gently, and together they stepped fully into the morning. The town was watching, but they felt ready. Not because the challenges had ended, but because they had discovered the power of trust, the strength of unity, and the promise that destiny, when guided by courage, could lead to joy. Iron Willow breathed deeply, feeling the child within, feeling hope take root in every corner of her heart. The storm had passed, and a new chapter had begun. The trading post, once a place of tension and fear, now stood as a symbol of resilience and choice. And for Iron Willow, Red Hawk, and the life growing inside her, the future, though uncharted, was theirs to shape. They walked forward together, hand in hand, ready to meet whatever came next, with courage, love, and destiny guiding their way.